Our sponsors for this episode are Gambino's Pizza in Newton. Gambino's Pizza in Newton is located at 1029 Washington Road in Cedar Village. They are open 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. If you love pizza as much as I do, you know that you always have time and room for pizza. Not only can you dine in or carry out, but they have a huge menu of items to pick from, including wings, pizzas, salad bar, and not only that, but they have the only pizza buffet in Newton. If you're looking for a family-friendly environment or just need to stop in for a quick lunch over the noon hour, Gambino's has got you covered. Visit Gambino's Pizza in Newton at 1029 Washington Road in Cedar Village, or give them a call at 316-866-1778. That's 316-866-1778 to order out or ask questions. You can even order online. Look them up on Facebook, give them a like, follow, and a share. Gambino's Pizza in Newton. Carlos's Kitchen and Cater. Carlos's Kitchen and Cater, located at 114 South Kansas Avenue in Newton, is one of Newton's best-kept secrets. Or maybe you know about them and have already stopped in or carried out some of the most delicious Mexican food in our region. If you're just hearing about them, you need to give them a try. If you're a repeat customer, you'll already know why. Give Carlos's Kitchen and Cater a call at 316-804-0158. That's 316-804-0158. Or you can stop into 114, that's 114 South Kansas Avenue. Make sure to look them up on Facebook, give them a like, follow, and share. And don't forget, folks, tell your friends. Carlos's Kitchen and Cater. The Newton Kansan is Newton's longest-running local newspaper, covering all the stories, people, places, and things happening in our community. Chad Fry, the Kansan guy, editor of the Kansan, works diligently to ensure integrity, accuracy, and unbiased news is delivered to your doorstep 3 times a week for an unbeatable price. You can also sign up for online-only access for around $7 a month. That's 12 online papers a month for only $7. If you've not subscribed, it's time you do. Visit them in their office at 517 North Main Street. That's 517 North Main Street in Newton. Online at thekansan.com. That's thekansan.com. Or give them a call at 316-283-1500. That's 316-283-1500. Support local journalism, support the Kansan. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and our 2 special guests, my co-partners in crime, Andy Ortiz, local entrepreneur and businessman, also USD 373 school board member, and Chad Fry, as we affectionately know as the Kansan guy, who is the editor of the Newton Kansan paper. Gentlemen, now that all 3 of us are here, how was your weeks?
Busy as always. But, you know, I'm not going to dwell on the week that is past. I'm concentrating on the week that is to come, and specifically today, that I am seriously looking forward to being one of the persons invited to judge the Harvey County Constitution essay contest.
And right now, if you don't know, Chad is reading over a pocket Constitution.
Gotta cram. I'm super stoked to have been asked to be a part of that process, and I'm seriously hoping that juvenile intake doesn't get in the way, and that I can read through these wonderful essays written by juveniles, you know. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
Andy?
Yeah, I've been a part of that, and it's pretty cool. So I'm glad that it's really amazing that you're actually participating and being a part of that process. And there's a lot behind that, and I love where that program is going and the debates that's going to bring to the forefront of the table and getting our kids to go over the Constitution in a creative way and think differently. My week's been amazing. A lot of exciting things. It's like an extra special week with like the cherry on top. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of pressures in one way in the business side of my life, but I also have a lot of blessings ahead. And so I really can't announce anything till 11 o'clock. So I can't really say, even though this won't be out.
It's all right.
Because banks and things can happen. Mm-hmm. So until the papers are signed and everything's locked down at 11, I will have some exciting announcements for a group of people that I'm working with. And sometimes I got to pinch myself the opportunities I get to be around and be a part of. And the people I get to hang out with and what they're doing in their lives and the visions that get pushed off on me that I know what the possibilities are. And I think the biggest thing is what it takes to actually get to a point where you can endure so much and you fight through so many things, but then the trickle effect over the long haul and how that just can change your business, your outlook, your structure, the way you look at the world. And so really excited for a team of people that I'm around. And so at 11 o'clock today, I will be like over the moon. So we'll see what happens.
The other thing that comes to my mind right here is hindsight is 20/20. And generally speaking, and I don't know if you're like me, but whenever I use that term, it's sometimes negative specific, right? Like you go through life, you're doing X, Y, Z, and then all of a sudden, let's say something derails or it didn't work out or whatever the case may be. And you're like, well, hindsight's 20/20. But at the same time, you can look at it from a perspective of, I started on this path, I executed, I moved forward, and looking back, well, look at where I am today. Look at where I am today. Now, when you're at the beginning or you're working your way through all that and you're doing it for years and you're grinding it out and there's peaks and there's valleys and there's losses and there's wins and these are all micros, right? But then you look back and you're like, wow, I've really accomplished something. And that can go for anything personal. I mean, I exercise quite a bit. I was at one exercise facility and moved over to another one and whatever the case may be. But if you're standing on that scale every day after trying to lose weight and you're losing a pound every month, right? If that's what your personal improvement goal is, well, give it 12 months and you've lost 12 pounds. So, I mean, there's a hindsight's 20/20 both in the negative and the positive. So from there, I have a couple issues or topics that we want to talk about today. The three major topics, we'll call it, are Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We want to talk about that. We want to talk about upcoming elections and psychology behind it. I don't know if we're going to do this in reverse order here. And then once we promised last week when we talked, and we wanted to wait for Andy to be here because we know that he's very vocal and has a very, very, very big opinion on all this that's going on. But no, just... But we promised that we would wait for Andy, and it's Trump's usage of the National Guard in communities across the country. So, Chad, just local news. What do you got? I know I saw some things in local
where
news.
to start?
Can I start for
there.
you that I think
Holy
something's awesome?
mackerel.
What's a front pager? Give us a front pager.
A front pager that was not necessarily front page. It's probably the sale of the Halstead Hospital.
No, that's a front pager.
Okay.
That's a big one.
I mean that
big time.
Yeah, the hospital closed as a hospital in 2002, and then it was purchased by someone that tried to put some things in it, but nothing ever took. And so it's been sitting empty for a really, really, really long time. And on Friday morning, a new organization is closed on the building. And there's actually two organizations involved in this sale because there's multiple buildings that are a part of it, all of which are being called by the new owners landmark buildings in Halstead, which I think is a great designation because that's what we're talking about. Yeah. You know, that hospital dominates that community. It really does. And so it's exciting that someone is seeing that and that they're going to try and put something in it.
Very cool. Or maybe multiple things even.
So, yeah, and it's a big project. It's going to take a lot of money. And the new owners are very well aware, and they are ready.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So somebody with some vision and some creativity, and they're going to be able to restructure and at a budget that. So the thing that I've known people that have looked at it over the years, and it's just the money to restructure.
Yeah.
And it's just expensive.
Yeah.
And those things are built the way they're built. So you have to, but for somebody to come in and have the foresight to say, hey, I'm willing to take this on and we can make this work. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good luck. I hope they're successful.
And you got to give a shout out. I'm just going to say it right now, not going into local elections yet, but you got to give a shout out to Dennis Travis, mayor of Halstead, because ultimately in his job duties and criteria as that person, he is supposed to do everything he can to look for economic development opportunities to come to his community. And under his watch, right, if you're talking about that kind of a transition from a sale of something that's just more or less been completely underused, I'll say.
He's been a huge fan of
Yeah.
our
Hey, he's who
network.
called me to tell me that the hospital was that had sold. He waited until after it closed, and then he
so
called me up.
He didn't give it to you before 11.
So no, he didn't give it to me before 11, but he did give it to me
Right.
early.
on.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
the
cool.
conversation that I had with him, I love those conversations because it's like, okay, well, yeah, I can get this done. I can get this done pretty quick. And he gave me the number of the new owner, and at that point in time, from my perspective as a journalist, I've confirmed that the building's been closed on. So really, a call to the new owner is more of a courtesy.
Yeah.
It's if I get voicemail, I can be like, yeah, call me back if you need to. Just wanted to let you know we're going to break the news. That kind of call.
Yeah.
And Dennis, I said that, and Dennis said, well, if you could wait just long enough so that I could announce this at city council, that would be great. I'm like, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
City council starts at 7, right? I'm going to time this out for about 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, and we'll be good. So I love those kinds of calls, especially just that spirit of cooperation. I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Well, and I did see that when you put it out there on the link, right, on social media, there's been interest in it, and people are asking, well, why isn't this a free article or whatever? And then I didn't comment, but you got to go back to the fact. And
My kids have to eat, everybody.
Yes, and this is a good point to make here at this point in time, because I forgot to do this at the beginning of the program. But we were for a while doing local upcoming events, right? And basically, you're just regurgitating exactly what was in the cans and out and projecting that to the public in a different way. And we've said multiple times on the program, hey, there's other people that spend a lot of time and effort and put a lot of hard work into making sure that they are putting out upcoming events. So I want to give credit where credit's due. And once again, point people back to the Kansan. It's $7 a month for an online subscription. You get 12 papers. That's like nothing for a paper. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, that's next
that's
to
crazy
nothing.
good.
Okay. And even then, I think if you actually get the paper, that it's less than $20.
Yeah, it's that's not all that much.
We're talking about next to nothing. And then also, before I forget, Choose Newton. Go to Choose Newton. I'd love to see what their numbers are, especially when they put out upcoming events and calendars. But both of
Their
those
calendar
places,
is the busiest part of their website.
yeah, and I mean, go to them, do it, reward those people for what effort they put into it. So keep going, Chad. Sorry.
So I was just going to say that something else that happened this week that is exciting, though it's exciting based on what hat I'm wearing, because there is one hat where I'm a little queasy. But Ember Hope
Yeah.
broke ground on a $13 million housing development this week.
I really wanted to be there.
So
I have a lot of history there.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yep. Did the thing. Took the pictures. Wrote
Good.
the story.
Did we have a good crowd show
So
up?
yeah, we had a pretty
Good.
I mean, you got to compare that to crowds of let's just say other chamber events, right? Because that's that was, in addition to Youthville, the chamber would have been the number one promoter of that. So the mission is cool. The idea is cool, and I hope it works out. But when I look at this through the lens of community corrections and law enforcement, Youthville is
A lot of risk.
yes. Our community throws a lot of resources at Youthville. I'll put it that way.
I worked there.
Okay,
and
I'll say
I
this.
remember.
Yeah, I mean it's. I'm not
We put
saying
a lot of
anything
stress
that's an
on the cops, especially that are
unknown.
in that area.
Yeah.
That work that area, they had to go
Yeah.
more than we would have liked.
Well, and okay, we talked a little bit ago about the few podcasts back about the elephant in the room when it comes to our property taxes and the struggles that the Newton City Commission faces in trying to set policy and management, trying to balance a budget where 30% of your tax revenue property tax revenue
Evaluation.
Evaluation, okay,
Right.
which means you don't get taxes from it ultimately in the end, is from a nonprofit sector. And I'm sure that has to do with a lot of churches and stuff, and of course I'm a part of CCRT, so that is just another nonprofit, and they have a building, and then there's other nonprofits in that building, et cetera,
Yep.
et cetera. But we have a very giving community. We have a very focused community that looks and says, we want to help people. Well, when you provide the services, right? If you have 30% of your, let's say, businesses, we'll just call it businesses, right? I know that's not a right way to look at it. We have such a high nonprofit sector, such as Ember Hope or these other entities that are providing services to people. We really do import a tremendous amount of people that need help. And when you do that, you also bring in, oh man, I don't want to use the word baggage, guys, but you bring in,
You're importing need.
yeah. So then there's also a part of that if you do that, then there are, I don't even want to reuse the word negative, but there's I don't know. I want to choose my words.
There's a lot of risk in those communities.
You're trying to dance around it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to use the right words.
You want to be politically correct,
Yes.
right? But that's not, I think people get it. I mean, I think that when you import, I'll use that word, a community that struggles, you're going to a lot of times continue to deal with the struggle as a community.
Yeah.
Right.
And the opportunity for those struggling communities, no matter what their race is, because I worked there, I saw all of them from all types of backgrounds, but they are low income. A lot of them struggle with families that have addiction problems, abuse problems. People went to jail, kids ended up there, high risk. They're in another community of kids that have struggles and emotional issues. That compounds on itself. Next thing you know, you're dealing with a lot of trouble. And then you see these kids on government subsidies 15, 18 years after the fact, since I've worked there in our community. I see them at Walmart, and some of them I'll give me hugs, and I give hugs to, right? Because I knew them as a little 11, 12-year-old. And the lifestyles that they choose when they're high at Walmart, and they're just not, you can tell they're not doing well.
Yeah.
And then they have kids.
Yeah.
Right. And then those kids maybe introduce your kids to something, and that risk is there. It's a higher probability that you're going to have to deal with more issues. Now, there are a lot of people that break out of that.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And I've seen that too. And that's awesome. But if you were to take 10, and I'd be curious what the numbers were, right? If 10 of those families that are going to be serviced there, that have those opportunities to grow through that program, I wonder how many of them actually make it out of poverty. Because it comes down to poverty.
Yeah, it comes down to poverty. And man, if you're looking at, here we go in the analysis of statistics, right? Which I'm a junkie for, okay? I've said it over and over and over again. I just don't know why. I really enjoy that. But, if you take into consideration, we had somebody on the program a while back, Julie Hendricks, who works for MIR and also works with CCRT as a volunteer. If you take what I believe during the podcast, what I came to understand was that 2%, less than 2% of people who develop a substance use disorder are able to get to sobriety and maintain sobriety for a long period of time. So if you're talking, 10, I don't know if you can do 10 because that wouldn't even be one person. But if you're taking 100, what are we looking at? 2 out of 100, And so I don't know because I don't have the data right in front of me here. But when you're talking about poverty, how many people make it out of poverty? How do you help people get out of poverty? Poverty comes back to education, work ethic, family dynamics, substance use disorder in the family, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess if we don't do things like what Ember Hope is doing, then the chances of anybody making it out is zero because they won't have the services needed in order to help them with transitional housing and
That's
education
a good point.
to be able to do it. So it comes back to, well, if we can save 2, right, in the thing of substance use disorder, then that's 2.
Well, and what's the alternative, right? And how much as a community can we absorb? And I think that's the question, right? It's not a matter of if we should be trying to help people.
Right.
It's a matter of how many can we really help that's feasible, and why can't we have that conversation now? Because we're trying to grow ourselves into a different class as a community, and it hurts a lot of people as we do that. And it hurts people that are working their butts off, barely able to get by. And it's not that they're lazy, and it's not that they're mental, and it's not that they're emotionally disturbed. It becomes that after a while, right? When we don't see rewards from our labor. But it hurts those people that are on the fringe, and we don't want to lose those people either. So what's the balance, and how many can you help? And we have an interesting challenge, I think, in Newton because of our heritage here and the people who put this community together. Yeah. There's a lot there, and we know that live here in this area. We understand that, at least most of us do. And I've got a bird's eye view into some of those communities and how they think and operate. And I got to go to a college that they established, and I got to understand where they come from and the track that the different groups had to get here. And amazing story, but their willingness and their sacrificial nature is there, and it's heavy.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of burden.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that looks like. And do we change that? And who are we, right?
Yeah.
To make those decisions when this community was literally put together for the purpose of serving.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, and I want to send it back over to Chad here to cover anything else that you'd like in Kansas before we get into our three big topics. But this could almost be a good time to transition over into the other things that we want to talk about. What do you got, Chad?
Well, the only other thing that I'll pull out of the Kansan from the last week or so is, quite honestly, I'm very thankful, very, very thankful for our Newton Police Department. The threat that occurred at Newton High School on Thursday was real. And, you know, I'm in an advantageous position because I get to speak not only as the editor of the paper, but as a juvenile intake worker who was involved in placement of an individual and had firsthand interaction with that individual. And this is not the first time. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, and that's exactly what this is, my opinion. This is not the first time that a school shooting has been stopped in Newton, Kansas. But I think this was the most serious threat we've ever had.
Wow.
So I'm just thankful for our Newton Police Department, and that was and I'm also thankful for the administration and everybody over at the school district because they handled that situation extremely well. The buildings being locked up and no one being in and out of them, that occurred during parent-teacher conferences. I was in the building for that. There were also some volleyball games going on over at the high school during that time. And, you know, you've got logistical problems there because what do you do with these teams and fans? And they found a way, they figured it out, and they handled it all like absolute rock stars.
Amazing.
So we all just need to be real thankful for a whole bunch of people. And that's, you know, when I did the reporting work on that, you know, I talk in terms of inches. And so it wasn't very many inches and wasn't very much ink. But it was attention grabbing. And a serious wake up call for our community.
Well, it's interesting to say this because three things I was thinking while you were talking, Chad. One is you go out on social media, and I saw the article that was posted, and there was a bunch of people that were just absolutely downplaying it. Like, oh, it's a threat, and they don't have anything better to do. So always be wary of social media, folks, because we have got to accept the fact that on social media, we live in a society that people will just say whatever, and since there's no accountability, really filter through what people are saying, put your critical thinking hat on, and understand that, like with what Chad's saying right now, it was a legitimate threat. And then we live in a society
Very much so.
where two things: you have to have a well-oiled machine in order to handle these situations that we would in the past have thought would be unheard of, right? I mean, like, and then third, right? You have a situation where, and this can lead into our topic, right? Anytime a threat is made, the law enforcement and people need to assume, rightly so, assume that it's legitimate, right? Like if it's not comes down to the fact that why would this person say this, or like we will call it call in a threat of some kind, right? I don't want to say the B word because then our algorithms are going to get but the realization that we have to take those types of situation as credible, right? Which then I want to lead into at this point in time taking what people say as credible at Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Okay, so it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and my heart goes out to individuals that have been in an abusive situation or relationship. But I want to kind of cover this from a different perspective that I have not seen nor heard a lot, and that is that it seems when we talk about domestic violence, we get very gender specific.
Yes, we do.
In our society, when we think about domestic violence, and this might be different for other people, but I would say the mass majority of us, high percentage, think about a scenario in which a man, gender, is committing acts of violence or abuse towards the opposite sex. Okay? And it got me to thinking that in my life, in my experience, and once again, we're not taking anything away from women who have been abused.
Yeah,
Please.
that's how people perceive it right
So,
away.
Well,
I'm going to jump right here.
Okay.
This is where I'm going to
Fly, baby, fly.
I'm going to parachute in.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully the parachute opens.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I was like, take it off of me. Take the burden off me, Chad. Chad said it. I didn't.
No, I'm in the habit of putting things in very real practical terms, right? So here's the very real practical terms. One of the questions that I am required to ask of juveniles when I have them in my office at the basement of the courthouse is, have you witnessed domestic violence? And 90% of them look at me and I'm like, well, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. They have no idea what I'm asking. And when I get the what do you mean, I look at them and I say, this is how I put it. Dad beating up mom. Mom beating up dad. That's domestic violence. That's what I'm looking for. What I don't say is, I don't dive into, is there mental abuse going on? Is there financial abuse going on? Abuse. Is it verbal?
Gaslighting, the whole deal.
Yeah, I don't dive into all of those issues because quite honestly, what these kids need is, because we're asking what you've seen and have you seen this, what they need to hear is who's beating up who.
Basic definition of domestic violence.
Right. It's very basic.
Yeah.
So, the reason I bring that up is because what you're trying to get at is dudes are hurt too. Right? Men are getting abused too.
Yeah.
By percentage, not nearly as many as women.
Well, I want to make an argument
here. But it does
okay.
happen.
Okay.
And I've witnessed it.
Yeah. And I want to make this is kind of where I wanted to go with this. Okay. We're talking about and if anybody's wondering why I'm saying this, it goes back to the heart motive of, statistically that we know has been reported. Okay. It's very one-sided.
Yes.
All right. But I truly believe, and this is something that I think we need to bring to the table, is when it comes to domestic violence, even if we're talking about physical domestic violence, I think that domestic violence against men is probably one of the most underreported scenarios because of the way our society views the gender roles and how we are in a situation where, like to say for this, okay, you know what?
In our media depictions, think about this. Think about the movies you've watched in the last 20 years. It seems to be perfectly acceptable for a woman to be beating the crap out of a guy's chest. But the moment he raises his hand, now we've crossed a line.
And I would say that
that bothers me.
Society's definition of this is that if a woman slaps you across the face, you're a man. Okay, so
just take it.
So don't hit him. You know, you can't do that. Which then again, you know, I'll say I wouldn't. I've never once in my entire life ever raised my hand to a female ever, because I see them as See, once again, we don't want to get words here because
you say the words. If you don't, I will.
You say it.
The women are the weaker sex.
But why is that a surprise? Why are people afraid to say that?
Because we live in a society where equality rules.
No, let's be real about this, right? I mean, come on, common sense. And my culture is a lot of guys put their hands on women. Unfortunately, I think it's less and less, but I hope it's less and less. But that you know, when my grandparents grew up, that was a way of discipline.
Well, but I think that's also,
yes.
I think that goes, I want to say that that's not just your culture or demographic. I want to say that in the past.
But that's how I grew up. I grew up with grandparents in my grandparents' home. And that was my grandmother would say, you know, you shouldn't marry a white woman because she won't let you discipline her. It was just the way of the culture and the way of that's how but I knew that wasn't right. My mom had to fight all that, right? To do things differently. And to set those boundaries and to teach me that's not okay. But for me, if a woman slaps me, it's abuse, but it's not going to hurt me at all, probably. And I tell my son, unless she has a knife or a gun, you just have to walk away.
Yeah.
You never put your hands on a woman. Could you hold her down? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But hitting a woman, if I was to slap a woman, I could break her freaking her jaw or her cheekbone. Yeah. It would be serious.
Yes.
I mean, I could really, really hurt a woman with one slap. Not.
And most men are like
true.
that. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to bench 325 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And I can squat 450 pounds, and I cock back and unleash a open hand slap to a woman's face, she's probably going to have some major issues. She's going to hit the ground, might get knocked out.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a big difference there if Stacey was to slap me.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't like it, but I might have a red mark on my face.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, so there is a big difference. And this is why we get into this interesting segment where we're afraid to say those things. And that's why we bastardize each other as men for being afraid just to say the truth. Because if you put a woman on a football field with me, she's going to have problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and see though, but and then so many ways.
That's why we can't have men in women's sports.
Well,
right?
and I'm telling you, with my education,
and women should have their own leagues.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Right,
There was a football game going on the other day. We had a soccer game in Mays, and there was a women's football game going on, a girls' football game. And I thought that was amazing, and they were hyped up, and they were having fun, and they were fielded out there in uniforms, and it wasn't tackle.
Yeah.
But still, they were playing football, and I thought it was awesome that they're having that opportunity.
Could be tackled, too. I mean, when you're putting like bodies in like bodies, I mean, that's not necessarily a problem. You know what I mean? It's like...
But I think...
I just don't understand how we got to this point where we're afraid that we have to debate that's a deal.
Well,
now, there are some exceptions.
Right now, in my education...
There are some exceptions. There's some women out there that are dogs, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're tough. But the average dude can put up with a tough chick in that way.
I'll go back to Taekwondo. You have a female who's a black belt in Taekwondo and a male that's a black belt in Taekwondo. Generally speaking, if you put those two together, even though for their own gender-specific situation, it's not gonna work out the way you want. I mean, I don't even want to. I don't even want to see it, right? Like, I do not want to watch in any way, shape, or form a man go out and beat up a female.
An all out. Hey, we're gonna grapple for technique.
Yes,
you're talking about we're gonna actually go.
Who's gonna win?
That's not even a question.
You know, that's okay. So then, and right now, I just gotta say, guys, my education that PC siren is just wailing in my brain that
I'm
you
sure
do
it
not
is.
say this. You don't say
I'm
this.
sure
You
it
can't
is.
say this. Well, but then why is it that I...
So what
yeah.
I'm going to try and bring us back to the point of origin. Okay? Why do we as a society seem to have a belief that men can't be abused?
Yeah, and the archetype is what's the month?
Domestic violence awareness.
And what is the first picture you get in your head?
A female
man beating a woman.
Yeah, well, and see this
and
messaging.
it happens, and
yes,
it's horrible.
But this messaging
and
is
those
true.
are
And
some
it
punk
shouldn't
bastards.
happen.
No, and this
You're
messaging
right.
is true, and this is part of the reason I was wanting to have this conversation was like you take for instance, okay, and I know men, I know quite a few men who have experienced domestic violence abuse from their partner. Okay, we all do. Okay, I know women also that have suffered domestic violence abuse from their partner.
Right.
So instead of it being a her, him, I think an important thing we need to look at right now when we're talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month is it's a them. It's a them.
And I'm going to tell you too, traditionally, right, our archetypes and the way we're built, like the men are the stronger sex. Done. That's not debatable. And anybody that wants to go to the weight room with me and tell me different, let's go.
Yeah.
My personal deal, right? I'm willing to go with you, and maybe there's a woman out there that can outlift me. Bring it on. The way we get abused and the way women abuse is different.
Correct.
Yes, that's a total different.
And that's been the topic of at least 2 or 3 discussions that I have had with my daughter. She's in high school now. Okay? Dating ain't very far around the corner. As much as I joke around and say that she's not allowed to date until she's 30, I know it's going to happen. And discussions that have happened have been like, some guy lays his hands on you, I'll end him.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an accident that daddy's cleaning his guns when the boys come over. He lays his hands on you, I'll end him. But based on the way you treat me, you're going to have to treat those guys better than you're treating me. Okay? You need to give them respect. You need to tell them the truth. You just need to be kind. Because this stuff that happens at the dinner table, if I weren't your dad, I'd be looking at you saying, I'm tired of being abused mentally, lady. But I am your dad.
Yeah,
So those are real conversations that are happening in my house. To Andy's point, that when we start talking about domestic violence, and I'm guilty of it at juvenile intake, we define that by people laying hands on other people, but it goes much deeper and much farther than that. Okay,
if you guys are okay,
you
with
can be
this.
abused economically, emotionally, all of it.
Okay, so I didn't expect for us to get into this deep of a conversation, but I'd like to rest here. I don't want to just transition off. So I want to say right now that we're going to take upcoming elections and psychology behind that, and we're going to bump that off till next week. So if you want to know what we're going to talk about next week, that's going to be a topic on here because I still want to cover the Trump's usage of the National Guard in communities across the country. But just let's rest here, okay? Because the messaging is such that any post that you see or any messaging that you see when it comes to domestic violence awareness is always a photograph of a man that's raising his hand to a woman, okay? But there's never, and I mean, I don't want to use the words never and always, but I still have yet to see anything that comes across any platform, any messaging whatsoever that shows a woman that is getting ready to commit an act of physical violence against a man. So then once again, I go back to the fact that I truly believe that it doesn't matter what gender you are, okay? It would be like saying men do this, women do this, or men wouldn't do this, but women would do this, or women would do this, but men wouldn't do this. People are people. People are people. And I think there's just as many scenarios that could play out where a woman, a gender specific, we'll say the woman in the relationship, is the abuser towards the man, even up into physical abuse, and vice versa the other way. And you know, we're probably going to take some heat over this, right? Because the first thing that's going to happen is you watch, okay? Coward, sissy, all these other comments are going to come up and surface based upon the fact that we are talking about the men and how men, I mean, that's what happens in society.
People are going to do what they're going to do, but
I've seen it.
I think the premise, and I'm going to go on my own opinions here, just the way I'm kind of laying it out inside after processing this. Men can do more damage than women. That's probably why we see that. So I think as a society, we're probably trying to say, guys, don't hit girls because you can do damage.
Which I agree with.
And so I think that's where the framing comes in, is knowing that a girl can hit a guy and it's not nothing, but it's less violent and less destructive to actually hurting somebody very seriously, physically hurting somebody. I think there's something to be said for men getting abused socially, emotionally, and in other ways, right? Where we're not supported in the ways that we would like to be supported. And depending on the mindset that you're in when you hear this and people's experiences, that's another thing that's going to come out for whoever's listening or watching the segment that wants to call us those names or say those types of things. It just depends on where people are at, right? Hitting somebody is the lowest form of being able to deal with something.
Yeah.
Right? And usually those people aren't thinking. And women are pretty sharp, and they'll get you in different ways. And a lot of it's mental and emotional and social, and little trigger words and gaslighting and things like that. And so the hat needs to be looked at and worn, and because there's narcissistic men that beat up women emotionally and socially too through the same things, by eating into their insecurities and all those things that men can do that really hurt women. So it does go both ways, but you're more apt to hurt a woman physically as a man. And I think that's why society does what it does, but yet we don't want to just say that stuff. It's all these you should just know and innuendo. And these are like terms that we never really agreed on, but we just continue to let go by, right? Instead of just talking about it, saying it is what it is.
And say
men are stronger than women in that way.
And I'll go here.
I'm going to read something.
Go for it, Chad.
Because I think it's summing everything up very, very well. And full disclosure, I absolutely love the Mayo Clinic. It's like my first place I go to for just about everything. And this is the Mayo Clinic, and this is their staff. Domestic violence happens between people who are or have been in a close relationship. It is also called intimate partner violence. This type of violence can take many forms, including emotional, sexual, and physical abuse, stalking, and threats of abuse. Although domestic violence most often happens to women, it can happen to anyone. At times, it may not be easy to recognize domestic violence against men. Abusive relationships involve one person having power or control over the other. An abuser uses threatening, hurtful words and behaviors to control a partner. Again, that's unisex.
Yeah.
Right? Early in the relationship, an abusive partner may seem attentive, generous, and protective, but later that attention can become controlling and it can become scary. And the abuse might seem to be isolated incidents at first, but an abusive partner may apologize and they may promise to not do it again. That entire thing, and then we've got know the signs of abuse listed and understanding the cycles and making sure that you as the abused don't take the blame. Okay? Now I'm going to get on my high horse for like 5 seconds. What do we men do all the time? We take the blame.
Yeah.
We do it nonstop. It's how we're made. It's how we've been conditioned to be.
Yeah. Well, you can't really be a man and be a victim, can you?
One of the what I really want to drive home here is that the Mayo Clinic staff wrote that summary of what abuse is, and they wrote it unisex.
Well, it goes back to the fact that I still believe, my words, that because of the way our society currently looks at gender roles, even though we're not supposed to have any gender specific roles here, that how oftentimes are women perceived to be the victim and men are not, right? I mean, I just want for people to begin having the discussion to realize that domestic violence and abuse is not necessarily gender specific. And it's easier for us to look at females as the victim than it is for us to look at males as the victims. But guys, I'm not in like this group of, me personally, I'm not in like this group of only abused men, right? Okay. But men talk. All right. We talk.
We do.
And I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I've heard of just talking about women. Well, she pulled a knife on me. She slammed my hand in the door. She threw something at me. She spit in my face. She slapped me. She kicked me when I was down on the ground or laying. So you can't tell me that when I'm sitting here having these conversations with people that and you know what? Not one of them did. Of all those situations,
nobody turned it in.
Nobody turned it in. So are we really getting an accurate? And then not only
we do not get an accurate picture. I've witnessed it.
Do you know how many times I have talked to individuals who said that they were in a relationship with the female, and the female threatened to accuse them of doing something they did not do in order to get the police to then come after them?
So I'll tell you.
I just gotta say.
I'll tell you a quick story. There was a time when somebody I know got hit. Long story short, cops were called. Guy went to jail, and he was the one that got hit.
Yeah.
Now, when the cops showed up, he was bleeding from his arm because he got sliced with a knife, and the cop was being real ugly to him. And one of these cops is somebody we know, because they figured that he hit a woman, and so he had to deal with all of that, and still went to jail. And later everything was dropped. No consequence anywhere, but it's still that he had to go through that process.
Well, and then you said the key phrase, no consequence anywhere, because I had, speaking of this, one of the most extreme cases of people that I know, they were in a tumultuous, going through a tough time, okay? And the gentleman said, hey, I'm not going to have this in my house. I'm not going to have this with my kids. You got to go. Okay. And the end result is because at that point in time, he was in a situation where he was trying to protect himself and his family from somebody that was not acting in a rational manner, that then that person turned around and said, all right, well, I'm going to call the cops on you, and made up a bunch of stuff, was arrested, the whole thing, mugshot in the paper, the whole thing, only for it to come out that individual lied, and that it was completely unsubstantiated. The investigation took place, and no charges were filed, no charges were, and it's just
let's just stop right there.
Okay.
And where, for the guy who goes to jail that never hit, that actually avoided the situation, that got put in handcuffs, went to jail, had to get bailed out, had to sit with however many days that was of that hell, dealing through the front end of that, just the shock and the, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now, right? because they're saying I hit. I didn't hit. Where's there's an abuse there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's real. And that stuff stacks up. And that's one of many other types of abuse after physical. And you didn't even physically abuse when you wanted to.
Yeah.
When you start doing that to guys over a long period of time, you start getting explosions and people doing stupid stuff and mental health and all the things that are compounding against us today. And that's why it's so important that we find guy groups and we talk and we release pressure and we share. And you got to be careful how you do that, right? Because some people just want ammunition to hurt, especially when you're in some of the positions we get to be in life and in this community. But you need an outlet, guys. And I think that's the big thing here, right? Is it's okay to talk. Make sure you find your tribe and talk.
100%. And that hints, what you just said, Andy, is the reason that I felt that we should talk about this on the program, because the first step in that is normalizing those conversations and realizing that no matter what, it's not okay to do physical harm to your intimate partner. It's not okay to abuse your partner no matter what gender you are. Okay, so moving on, because we only got
I want to one more statement.
Okay.
I'm going to put the domestic violence thing to bed right here right now, okay? Domestic violence can have devastating effects, and although it may not be possible to stop your partner's abusive behavior, you can get help. Andy just talked about some of the help that can be got. For dudes, anyway. Remember, no one deserves to be abused. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is at 1-800-799-SAFE or 1-800-799-7233. If you're being abused, call it.
Absolutely.
And I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you're being abused, call 1-800-799-7233.
Moving on to our next topic, folks. The last one, the big one, the national topic of the podcast. And we put this off for a couple weeks, man. And it's not stopping, right? So, do you believe that Trump's usage of the National Guard, placing them in communities across the country, is 1, constitutional, 2, necessary, 3, what the National Guard was designed to do, and 4, is it a political move?
Let me go with number 3 first. No. This is not what the National Guard was designed to do. And it is not how the National Guard was designed. And by the way, I'm talking about how the National Guard was designed and what it grew from in 1639. Let that sink in. The National Guard, it predates the Constitution. It predates the United States. It was designed to be a militia to protect families from invasion.
Andy? Just quick, just pop it off the top. What do you think?
So ask that question.
It was not specific. I mean, I asked 4 questions. Whether it's constitutional, whether you think that it's a political play or a move.
I think it's all of it. I think times change. I don't know the history behind why the National Guard was, but if it's for that, I think there was an invasion. You can see certain parts of the country that have been invaded in certain ways. And so, well, we can look at it a lot of different ways, I think, but there are major issues with certain cities and certain areas in certain cities that there are residents that are asking for help, and there are government officials that are saying no to that help. And so, do I think it's right or wrong or indifferent? Man, that's sticky because I don't know enough about it, honestly, other than the political sides are going to do their spins on it. Mm-hmm. And what happened in Washington, D.C., is that beneficial? I don't know. I think in 6 months from now, we'll see what happened there because every administration is going to pad it with their reason and their numbers. And I'm, frankly, just because of my political leanings, in favor of cleaning things up. But I'm sure there will be, in the near future, that used in a different way that I won't like. So what do you do with that, right? Because if let's say Kamala was president right now, and she was sending the guard down like Tim Walz did to keep people in their homes down in neighborhoods, which there's video of that because political pandering, or the people are doing what they're doing, right? Would I have liked that? And the answer to that is hell no. But yet I want to say yes right now, just because I'm in favor with some of the direction that our current administration is going. Not all, but a lot of it. And so is this a sticky place? Yeah, I think so. I don't like, government doing a lot of things. I do worry for me right now about fentanyl and about drug traffickers and how crazy it's gotten. Of the 20 million people that have come here, there's a large percentage of those people that don't have good intentions that are here. A large number, 10% of 20 million is a lot of people doing bad things. And there's a lot of great people that are here, just want to work and want opportunity. But how do we know that? How do we vet that? What is the process of making that right? I don't know that. I do think what we've deported, is it 3 million people now?
A lot of people.
And that's about as much as Obama did, right? So when you look at the scales there, and it's a short amount of time, that's a lot of people. But there was also a lot of people that came in. So there's just a lot of trauma in all of that, right? And the journey to get here, and being here illegally, and living here illegally, knowing you can be deported. All this is trauma, and it's not good. Yeah. And why are we here is my question. That's just why.
Well,
what was the strategy? What was the thinking behind it? Why did you choose to do it? Well, it's the liberal bleeding heart. We want to give everybody a chance. It's like, okay, but what about all the other stuff that's going on in between? How is that helping people? And I just don't understand, and I haven't really sat to unpack it enough because I'm almost like I've got enough problems myself, which is part of the problem, right? Yeah. I haven't thought about this that deeply, where I can really sit in silence and go, why? And was it beneficial? And I don't see the benefit at this point. Yeah. So I'm a little disappointed that I think some people had good intentions, and some people do have good intentions, but I guarantee you there's people in there that don't care about anything other than their own gain or what they think it's signaling out for their purposes. And you don't realize how many people you hurt when you're living that way. Yeah. And so this is going to continue. I don't think you should be here illegally without doing the proper thing. And frankly, I have people that will be mad because I know people that are here illegally. I have people that have family members that are here illegally, right? That are really close to me. Try to make it right. And I don't know what that means. There's people that have been here for 20, 30 years that haven't had no problems, that are at risk right now of getting taken away. And they work and they pay into the system, and they're not bad people, right? Not here for nefarious reasons. They just want to have a good life. And after you're here for 30 years, this becomes home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the whole thing with the National Guard, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking back here about the whole purpose of initially how we started down this road, was that you had immigration customs enforcement officers that were trying to do their job in order to get people that the administration or...
They were targeting the criminal element first.
Yes. And then because certain domestic law enforcement agencies would not aid ICE in what they were doing, then that put some vulnerability behind what they were doing as law enforcement officers, in a way to protect them or to allow them to do their job. If the domestic law enforcement agency was not going to support them, was to have the National Guard there. On top of the fact that there was a few times that National Guard was deployed and during things that were going on to protect the interests of the federal government, buildings, et cetera, et cetera. But like you said, I think is an interesting point, that if we go down this road, okay,
eventually it's going to come back on you.
Yeah, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander,
and,
right?
And the other part of it, one of the things that we have to weigh here is, and I'm not a Supreme Court justice, but the Constitution does speak to who should be deploying National Guard.
It's the state, right?
Congress.
Oh, Congress.
Okay.
Okay? At the federal level, it's Congress. not the president.
Yeah, but
That's
hasn't that pretty
article.
much just-
That's in Article 1.
Well, I mean,
and Section 8.
yeah.
And so that's, somebody's better wrap their head around this one.
Yeah, there's
But
a
aren't
lot
we
there.
seeing that happening? I mean, on many occasions. Okay, and this was the interesting thing about. I was going to talk about this on the philosophy part of the political aspect of it, and elections and the whole thing. We in this country are pointing the finger at the wrong entity, right? Which is, if we have immigration problems, if we have border enforcement problems, everything comes from Congress, okay? Congress makes laws. The president doesn't make laws. Congress makes laws. But because Congress has been so ineffective and they've gotten into this issue where one uses chaos to blame the other for the chaos and their not handling of it, going back to like the government shutdown. Right now, we're at a stalemate, and it's because the Republicans say the Democrats are doing this and that and everything else, and the Democrats are not going to do this because it's those Republicans that are doing this, and it's all this back and forth and so on and so forth. Well,
And
then
they're
all of a
lying
sudden-
about each other.
Yeah, and it's like this, once again, this uniparty, mutual
So
assured
here's the
destruction.
thing. We know what the problem is, right? And most of us, reasonable people, are going to say we need to fix our immigration policies and our structure. Both parties have had a chance to do it.
Over and over and over.
And the ones who bleed the loudest about we should get it done have done nothing.
Exactly right.
And so at the end of the day, when you're looking at this situation, you're going, what's really happening here? And why doesn't anybody like President Trump really bite the bullet and figure out what we need to do with immigration so we can get the best and the brightest in the world to have the opportunity to come here so we can continue to spill out into the world and do great things, right? But in the position we're in right now, we've got to take care of ourselves. We cannot be hemorrhaging money, giving out resources like we were 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, a year ago. We just don't have that kind of money. Our Social Security system is bankrupt. The numbers of kids being born are not going to be able to support the booming group and how many there are there. The money is just not going to, the scale does not make math work. It's done. So people like us are not going to see any Social Security, right? Yeah. So we have other things to worry about. So you got to forego to the next system, and hopefully a president can come in that can think through this and help us out, or have an administration that can focus on these things, because the reality is we're very reactive right now, and most of us are falling for it.
Yeah.
And so how do we get out of a reactive state and actually go down and buckle down and fix something that will help us in the future? Because right now these things are political footballs. 90% of our communities are falling for it. And 60% have no clue what's going on. They don't even want to know because it's confusing. It's complex. And they do that to confuse us, to make us not want anything to do with it. Because frankly, I'm fed up with it. I don't believe Democrats or Republicans in Washington. I think there's very few good ones out there that are actually there for us. I think once you get there, and I'll talk to a guy by the name of Dan Crenshaw. I bought his book. It's a signed copy over there. I thought he was amazing. I thought these are the kind of people we need in office. Come to find out, he goes up there for 6 months. The dude's just not even the guy I was supporting when he first came through. How does that happen? And you know what? I'm a human being too.
Yeah.
So God, forgive me, right, for judging somebody, because I don't know what he's gone through or what he's going through or what situation has put him where he's at, because I'm probably weaker than him. So that's just going to say, if you can get somebody that has the fortitude of somebody like that and put them in a position up there, what is happening to these people to make them change and do the things they're doing and forget where they come from and forget who's actually put them there to do the things for us that we want them to do? Because we all want something done with immigration. We all want something done with healthcare. We all want something done with education. Why aren't we having those conversations? We're talking about these low-level reactive things that next week it's going to be something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the week after that, something else.
And Andy, I mean, go to this. The things that you mentioned, it depends on which side of the aisle you're on, what you want done. Right? So then that feeds into the whole thing. And we are coming to the end of the program to give last words or whatever, but I I think we're getting into some very dangerous territory. When you look over the past few administrations, be it Republican or Democrat, it appears to me that the office of the presidency on both sides is being used more as a dictatorship than what it was initially designed for. If Congress is not going to act on immigration, then I buy my executive pen either side of the aisle. I'm going to say, well, we're just going to let all these refugees in here and we're just going to bring them in by the train loads, or then, oh, well, that doesn't work, so we're going to get into this. And
We're
the
going
other
to
person
fund
does
flights into certain parts of the country that just happen to be swing states.
Yeah.
And then the other side says, well, now I'm going to send the National Guard in.
Yes.
And then and it's just ridiculous.
Well, and this goes back to this.
So-
I believe
so do you
100%
believe-
we are on the verge of a civil war in this country. I believe that we are in a cold civil war as it stands right now, and I believe that it's not going to take very much longer before people are going to lash out. There's going to be some toxic situation that then breeds into violence. I think that we're getting into some real sticky area with the National Guard being deployed, and when bullets start
very
flying,
sticky.
I mean, somebody brought this up.
The bullets will fly eventually.
And somebody brought this up. They said,
which is the scary
They
part.
said the if you have a National Guard in Texas,
their bullets already flew, though.
yeah,
They've already been, there's
Yeah.
ICE agents that have been killed already.
yeah,
So that's already happened.
yeah.
Right? It's going to happen in a way where we just can't forget about it in a week and keep moving on, because the media stations don't want this one or that side to look bad, whether Fox News or CNN, and those wars that are going on the media side. Mm-hmm. Just like the ICE raids that have happened, when you have a gentleman's club that was raided, and they had illegals there from girls 13 years old who were being prostituted. And there was people there yelling at the ICE agents that were there, pulling these people out. And there were like 30 women that were being trafficked. And they found drugs and money, and they were chasing down drugs and just happened to find human trafficking. And it was the ICE agents that were pulling all this out. And then, but yet they show the people out there yelling at ICE and calling ICE names, Gestapo and all that kind of stuff. But yet the story behind it is pretty unbelievable. It's like, well, what about the other side of that story?
That we should be thanking them.
And why don't we talk about those things for what it is? And how do we get those groups broken up the right way?
Yeah.
Because the way we're doing it right now.
In that particular situation, there needed to be some communication. The dude standing on the street corner doesn't know any of what you just said.
That's sad.
At that moment, he doesn't know. He doesn't know that there's sex trafficking going on in the building, and ICE isn't going to tell him
Yeah.
because it's an active investigation.
Right.
I mean, this is classic of how law enforcement works. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Just like what's going on with this Charlie Kirk thing and all these things. It's like, dude, they can't talk about this stuff.
Exactly. You know?
Yeah. At this point, no.
Yeah, they can't.
It's
You don't have
insanity.
a rifle. It's like, you don't think we don't know that? But there's a lot more going on here, and we can't say nothing because they're doing what they have to do.
It's
and
the
we're not
classic.
patient.
Hey, I go through this all the time. It's classic. You sent a kid to Girard, Kansas for detention. Why? Oh, I can't tell you that.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
I can't tell you that. And I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you right now, if I could tell you that, your attitude would change a lot.
Well, and I'll go all this
Okay,
selective
so
outrage.
that's my point, right?
Right.
That those folks that were screaming at ICE in the moment, they had no idea what was going on. They just saw ICE pulling people out of buildings, and they weren't happy about that.
But then yet they're at a car wash pulling workers out of a car wash. That it's not that situation.
Yeah.
So you've got all of this confusion going
Right,
on.
Yep.
exactly.
And this narrative that we're choosing to either buy into this one or that one, and that's it.
It's selective outrage. It's tunnel
Ooh,
vision.
I like that. Selective outrage.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I'm scared of. I do not believe that our nation, where we are right now, can handle a Kent State again. I just don't. And with Kent State, that was the Ohio National Guard. They killed 4 people. peace protesters.
Can you imagine the soldiers that are put in a situation
And
where they might
we
have
are
to fire back?
exactly. We are. You know, when you start talking about some of these issues that we've got going on right now, there is every bit as inflammatory for us as a people as what was going on at Kent State in 1970.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we end up with four dead citizens. That's gonna rip this country completely apart.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm scared of right now. And so, you know, we can sit and have these conversations about, well, is it constitutional for him to do this? At the end of the day, those conversations don't matter, because we have to, I believe, we have to be laser focused on making sure another Kent State doesn't happen. And if you're going to be throwing Texas National Guard into Illinois, you might as well just light the fuse, man, because Kent State's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It is going to. Because some dude in downtown Chicago is gonna see Texas National Guard and he's gonna get peeved. What are they doing here?
Oh, and the messaging behind it. Okay, final words, gentlemen. We are long in the tooth. Chad, Andy, final words?
Have a great week.
Happy birthday, Naaman.
Have a good one, everybody.